Hey guys, Silver Skull Gamer here with a new video. So there's plenty of unboxings out there. That's not exactly what this is, because I'm not going to go through everything in this video, but what I kind of wanted to do is, and what we're going to do, is compare the plastic Mark IV Horus Heresy Space Marines Tactical Squad to the Mark III Horus Heresy Tactical Space Marines. So we have Betrayal at Calth and Burning of Prospero. Sorry. So that's kind of what I want to do, see what, other than obviously the armor marks, you know, do these sets come with different weapons? Do they share components? And it looks like they do on initial inspection. So they each take 3 sprues, first of all. The biggest change with Mark III, which a lot of people said they would not be able to do in plastic because of the segmented armor, there's too many cuts in it. Well, they solved that by splitting the legs into two assemblies. We can see that the segmented armor pretty much comes out no problem, and it looks great. Even most of the armor studs come out okay. I noticed on some of the shoulder pads the armor studs can fade away, but on the bottom by these the plastic inlets there, right here in the middle, they can get a little shallow. They're a little smaller than the top of the shoulder pad, but they should stick out when painted or when you put a wash on them. None of them were totally flat. And you can see the back of the, let's put this the other way. We can see the back of the armor, the segments on the torsos, and the studs there come out fine. And there's the torsos for the Mark III. I love Mark III. And this is a Horus Heresy set, so there's no Imperial logos or anything. No Aquilas, whatever. Aquilas. however that word's supposed to be said. There's no double eagles on any of these armor sets, which is great because even Chaos players could use these no problem, because there's no identifying marks. And the awesome heads. So the Mark III heads, the Mark III heads are awesome. I love Mark III armor. Them being released in plastic is just one of the highlights of my 40K. It's not career, but anyway, it's awesome. Dream come true. You pretty much get most of the heads are the same, with the face grill slats on both sides, and then these 4 at the very end are the most distinct. And I'm not too familiar with all the patterns of bolter, but they are definitely different. Oh, sorry. So the Mark III bolters are definitely different than the ones that come in Betrayal. Betrayal at Calth. I think one's Umbra and one's Ferox pattern. So, anyways. Alright, so here's the Mark IV. And the sprues are set up a little differently as far as layout of parts. As you can see, let's zoom back out since we're doing a comparison real quick. So there, it's both 3 sprues per tactical squad. The Mark III's got all the legs on one, and then all the arms, and then you've got some holstered pistols, which is awesome, and holstered pistols with magazines, which is cool, and then just unloaded holstered pistols. I've got a thunder hammer, the awesome, very early kind of chaosy, well, for 40k players, you'd probably think these are chaos chainswords, but definitely pre-heresy, early heresy chainswords, which are awesome. Got a heavy bolter, thunder hammer, pre-heresy style thunder hammer. The awesome Mark III backpacks. I don't know if these are the same as Mark II. Now they're actually come in 2 pieces, which is new. And for the sergeant, you've got Power Fist, a Power Claw. It's got like pointy fingers. Sorry. So where are we at? Oh, nope. Here we go. So you've got the Power Fist and then the Power Claws, 2 pieces. And this is, I've come to learn, this is a Legion Vexilla, like a standard. Here's the special weapons for the squad. Melta plasma gun, plasma pistol, bolt pistol. And I think that's it. So, these aren't as fleshed out as 40k tactical squads because you only get the Mark III set, you only get 1 heavy weapon. It's a heavy bolter. You do get a thunder hammer. Oh, there's a power sword as well. And you only get 2 special weapons and 2 pistols and 2 power fist variants. So, as detailed and awesome as it is, there's just not a ton of customization per tactical squad. Alright, so we're moving on to Mark IV. You've got torsos, backpacks on 1 sprue. You've got half of your legs, a bunch of combat blades, shoulder pads. You actually got a heavy bolter and an awesome pre-heresy missile launcher, or heresy era missile launcher, whatever you want to call it. The one thing that's cool about the Mark IV is there's more variation in the armor itself. The armor sets themselves, like they include the studded pads. If we look at the legs, you've got some studs mixed in here and there on the legs, which is cool. You've got the big studs, and you've even got some little studs. And then there's the shoulder pads. So you've got some studded shoulder pads. The Mark III's all the same, that I can tell. They're all the same. And Mark IV torsos actually do appear. There's a little variation too, and there's some variation on the helmets as well. Okay, so the Mark IV armor has more variation in it, or variation period, which is nice. And I was never really a big fan of Mark IV armor until I saw the plastics, and then realized that actually the Mark IV would look really good with salamanders because the helmets would lend themselves to kind of a dragon style paint job, with like dragon's skull white white accent skull stuff on the helmets, which is why I really want to do all 30, my whole Betrayal at Calth set as salamanders. Yeah, so looking at also the Mark IV backpacks are one piece. They're like the old backpacks that came in third, fourth edition. Definitely remember these. Have a few of them still from some of the first sets I ever bought. You've got... Okay, so the armor has more variation. The sprues are laid out a little differently. Like I said, the third sprue is your other legs. Again, there's 2 power fists, but they're both single pieces. One's a clenched fist, the other, the fingers are out. Now, the heavy weapons. So, like we already went over, there's 2 heavy weapons. There's a heavy bolter and a missile launcher. The special weapons, though, there is a melt-a-gun. There is a plasma gun, plasma pistol, 1 power sword. Oh, and there's a power lightning claw attachment for one of the power fists. So you can make your sergeant have at least 1 lightning claw. And what else? There's a combi bolter, which is pretty cool. Let's get it. The combi bolter. And Forge World does combi bolters right, where the special weapon is on the bottom. I hate Games Workshop combi weapons with the special weapon on top. For practical purposes, it makes no sense. You look at any real-world military weapon, and the secondary weapon is not in line with the main sights. It's not in the primary position. It's a secondary weapon. It's in the secondary position, which is usually underslung underneath, which is the way Forge World has done theirs, and I love them for it. So they give you a nice pieced together combi bolter. Oops, sorry. So here's the bolter itself. You can see this big blank space where the special pieces attach, and you've got the, I guess, plasma melta flamer. The melt-a-gun between the 2 sets looks exactly the same. I was trying to find differences, and I don't think there are. The melt-a-guns look exactly the same. The heavy bolters are the same. The plasma guns, the only difference on the plasma guns right here is that in the Mark IV set, the plasma gun handle or hand grip doesn't have ridges, I guess. So it's a smooth hand grip underneath. I think that's the only difference. The Legion Vexilia is exactly the same. No difference there. The power sword's different. I believe the plasma pistol's the same. The accessories, like ammo pouches and stuff, are different for both sets. And grenades. Actually, the Mark III set, interestingly enough, does not have individual grenades, now that I'm looking at it. So yeah, there's no individual grenades on the Mark III set. not even really included in the ammo pouches. So that's interesting. But, so that's kind of it. I think we've covered pretty much everything. I believe probably part of the problem with the Mark III set is that the legs take up so much more space. And to keep their 3 sprue count, it's going to fit in your standard troop size box. They just didn't have enough room for some more accessories because the legs take up twice the space. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. So, Betrayal at Calth definitely gives you more per squad as far as accessories and weapons choices. Well, okay, maybe not really. Also, the Mark IV has combat blades instead of chain swords. Mark III set has the awesome chain swords. There's only one chain sword. Oh, and there is a flamer. How did I miss that? So Betrayal at Calth actually has a flamer. So yeah, Betrayal at Calth has has more options. There's definitely more options per squad. Other than that, I think that's it. But both look great. The detail's awesome. The Mark III really looks good. The segmented armor looks great. It's going to be awesome to paint whenever I get around to that. So that's it. Just kind of wanted to compare the two tactical squads between Betrayal at Calth and Burning of Prospero. Obviously, we'll see the Mark III guys released individually sometime in the future, and they'll be their ridiculous price of, what is it, $50? Is it $50 for Mark IV right now, the separate box? And you actually get more. Like I said, you get a combi bolter, you get a flamer, and a missile launcher. Mark III, you only get plasma gun, melta-gun, heavy bolter. So that's the trade-off for the Mark III. But really, it looks like, other than some tiny differences, it looks like pre-heresy special weapons are all the same basic model. They don't have a bunch of different, Mark IV doesn't have specific special weapons. Mark III doesn't have specific special weapons. The weapons are pretty standard. So given your so with the hands molded on everything now, let's take a look at that real quick. Let's find some hands. So the hands on the Mark III do have 2 little armor studs on them, and that's the only way you would be able to tell the difference. So you can take your weapon hands or weapons from Mark IV and put them on your Mark III guys. Nobody's going to know the difference. Nobody's going to know the difference. So that's good. Yep. So that's it. Next I'll do Tartaros, whatever they are, Tartarus Terminators and Cataphract Terminators. Alright, so we'll see you in that video.